You perform for people like me for a living, and I admire you deeply and greatly. Let me perform for you, if you don't mind, for at least 24 minutes or so. I have prepared a script, and I have rehearsed it, and I've also included some pinter pauses. I'm not sure if folks from theater school remember those, but I certainly have. Good afternoon. A big thank you, ACTRA, Kate, Rob, John Cleland, Corey Duran, AI Subcommittee, all of the members here. This is terrific. I've learned so much from being here today, and I almost feel like if we just end the day and you can go home. But again, I want to share some of the things I've been learning about AI and the screen industries and what it means for the future of work and labor and creativity and craft and also contestation. So I admit I'm a little bit nervous standing on the stage in front of so many of you. Before I was doing my professor gig, I was actually a theater kid. And there's me in high school performing in Little Shop of Horrors as Seymour before being eaten by Audrey 2, the alien plant. I also went on to study theater and English at the University of Guelph, acting in numerous productions, including Clifford Odets' working class agitprop classic, Waiting for Lefty. And I think I see somebody there that I know and remember dearly. So near the end of my degree, after spending a month at Stratford School in the summer, I was really anxious. I was working like 3 different precarious jobs. The department dangled a little grant to fully fund my MA. So I went in that direction. And I've always kind of looked back at that moment in my life and sort of wondered, what if? So instead of moving to Toronto to try to jump into the screen industries, I jumped into to a PhD, and here I am. But performance never left me, nor did this great quote by the Bard, all the world's a stage and all the people merely players. So many of the skills that I learned through performance, through close reading, interpretation, improvisation, using my voice, my body to communicate, tell stories, connect with an audience, move people, to think and feel in new or different ways. They've been absolutely invaluable throughout my academic life. Teaching my first class as a contract instructor at the University of Guelph Humber Media Studies, I was standing in front of the classroom being like, what am I doing here? My first-gen university student, first-gen professor, first class, I'm simply not cut out of this. And I was like, you went to theater school. Perform as a professor. And ever since then, I've been really trying my best to play that role truly and with integrity. Suffice to say, I deeply admire your craft. I admire not only what appears on screen, but also what audiences rarely see. All the years of training and practice and risk and passion and experience and knowledge and grit and growth and learning that make great performance possible. I deeply admire your labor process, not just the end product. And too often we only see the end product. So yours is a craft that will stand the test of time. For thousands of years, across cultures, civilizations, performance has been understood as a distinctly human craft. From antiquity to the contemporary screen industries, generations of performers have devoted their lives to it, and so have you. And it's precisely because I value your craft so much that I want to talk about one of the biggest or significant challenges to it today, and that being artificial intelligence, organized, controlled, and sold by some of the world's biggest tech companies, now aligned with one of the most troubling governments on the planet right now. AI was called the Person of the Year in 2025. What are these people thinking? What are they saying? What are they telling us? How are they trying to get us to buy into their dream of the future? Well, over the past few years, we've been told by Silicon Valley tech bros that AI is the future of everything. We are inundated with predictions about the AI-powered world ahead. It reminds me of a line attributed to the business consultant Peter Drucker, quote, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And that is precisely what these companies and their owners are doing. They're trying to build the new future with or without us, and right now, often it's without us. In 2023, Bill Gates told us that the development of AI is fundamental as the creation of the microprocessor, the personal computer, the internet, the mobile phone, and that entire industries will be disrupted, and many jobs and careers will be destroyed. Sam Altman professes that AI will continue to get way more capable and will become ubiquitous as time goes on, displacing more and more human-centered activities and jobs. Elon Musk predicts that AI will become smarter than all of the humanity collectively by around 2030. And Musk sees a future where most humans have less and less value. They're basically relegated to the status of ants. These predictions are also followed by people like Zuckerberg, who declares we're moving toward a world with billions of AI agents, perhaps more AI agents than people. Well, he fires thousands upon thousands of Meta employees. Why? To free up more investment. Why? To invest in AI to fire more workers. These predictions are not neutral descriptions of the future. They are attempts to script the future and make it real. By repeatedly telling us that AI's future is inevitable, that we have no say, no voice, no collective democratic deliberation to shape the future, they're basically saying this is a foregone conclusion. We have made the future, whether you like it or not. Now, of course, we live in a democracy, and issues is hugely important and consequential. This require our collective participation, deliberation, debate, and decision-making. Your futures are never determined by technology alone. They're made by people. So when tech billionaires tell us that AI is the future, we should ask, who is really benefiting from this if that future comes to pass? And who stands to lose? Well, let me say a little bit about the biggest AI beneficiaries today, just so you understand how that political economy works. Well, global investors have poured literally trillions of dollars into the idea that AI will and must be the next great engine of economic growth, productivity, and profit. They are looking for returns, really big ones. US-based companies such as OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, NVIDIA share that vision. They're also looking for profits, super profits. Yet there's a big catch here. The biggest AI firms today are generating billions in revenue every year, but they're also incurring enormous costs. Despite all of the hype, the leading AI firms are simply not profitable right now. OpenAI reportedly generated roughly $13 billion in revenue in 2025. It lost $21 billion. So it is not a profitable company yet. So investors are therefore betting not on what AI has already earned, but on what they hope it will earn in the future. The trillions invested today depend on tomorrow's widespread adoption. If AI fails to deliver returns, the big money people expect, the economic consequences for basically those investors and their CEOs are severe. That's why AI investors and CEO tech bros are really pushing so hard to get their AI services and platforms embedded in everything, everywhere, including the screen industries. In the United States, the Trump administration has thrown its weight behind AI companies, viewing AI as central to American economic prosperity and geopolitical power vis-a-vis a rising China. In Canada, PM Carney's government has also embraced AI through its AI for All strategy. Yet much of the infrastructure and many of the platforms upon which that strategy depends are owned by American firms. Canada's so-called sovereign AI future is very much tied to AI companies based in and AI products and services developed in the United States and sold to us here. Suffice to say, American AI companies are backed by the power of the Trump government and welcomed by governments around the world, including Canada's. Their business model depends on rapid adoption. The more AI spreads, the more likely it is that today's investments become tomorrow's profits. What is already clear is that the AI boom is concentrating wealth and power in the hands of a relatively small number of investors, CEOs, and firms. The rich have gotten astronomically, disgustingly much richer than any human civilization has ever seen before. We are living in a new gilded age with tech bros at the top of the AI ladder reaping the spoils. One of the ironies of the AI boom is that many of the highly paid tech workers in Silicon Valley that for the last 15 years have been literally building and designing these systems are now being terminated by those systems they designed. So many of the professionals whose minds were integral to creating AI now find themselves competing with it. At the same time, CEOs across the economy are telling workers they must use AI to become more productive or risk becoming obsolete. The logic is familiar in the whole history of capital. Companies adopt technologies that promise efficiencies, reduce labor costs, and push fewer workers to do more and more work faster and harder. The result is often the same: higher productivity, fewer paid workers, greater profits for the few. And that brings us to the screen industries, where performers are not immune to this disruptive innovation or degradation, nor the promise of the efficiencies that AI companies dangle before studio executives. As one recent headline put it, the AI job apocalypse is headed to Hollywood as studios slash jobs and replace actors. To AI companies, film, television, radio, video games, and digital media are lucrative markets for their services. They see us all as consumers and users, and even data sources to exploit, to train their systems. In the bigger picture, AI companies and their boosters need to convince those who run the screen industries that the craft of acting, your profession, your labor, your livelihood, can be replicated by a more intelligent machine. They tell us software can learn performance, simulate embodied expression, and generate digital likeness that will stand in for performers. In short, they tell us that the craft performers spend lifetimes developing, that you've spent your lifetime developing and honing, can be simply packaged into an algorithm and sold back to all of us without us. While the biggest AI companies are leading the charge, a growing ecosystem of specialized firms is now selling AI content generation services to producers as well. Consider Reactor, an AI video startup backed by Amazon Web Services. Consider Runaway, 11 Labs, Stability, AI, and others that are marketing AI tools capable of generating digital voices, faces, bodies, worlds, whole stories with basically a prompt. We're also seeing the rise of AI entrepreneurs like Cecilia Shen, who openly promise to make movies and TV shows and commercials with fewer and fewer people, much fewer people at a lower cost, much lower cost. We're seeing Hollywood giants such as Disney invest heavily in AI and partner with big companies like OpenAI. We're seeing streamers such as Netflix acquire Ben Affleck-founded companies and invest in AI video production firms. We read that blockbuster titans like James Cameron have now joined the boards of AI companies. We're seeing celebrated auteurs even, like Martin Scorsese of the New Hollywood of the 70s, experimenting with AI-assisted filmmaking. We're watching AI become normalized across Amazon-supported Hollywood and industry trade events and industry discussions. We're seeing some directors now openly celebrate AI as a major production tool. And we've even seen, of course, AI be used to de-age performers, such as De Niro and Ford. We've seen studios digitally resurrect performers. Now, one wonders, if Hollywood can endlessly recycle stars of the past, living and dead, what happens to job opportunities? What happens to the craft? What happens to the process for everyone here and those actors that are working and trying to get into this industry as well? We also see fully AI sort of generated movies now premiering at Tribeca and other film festivals. In other words, AI is no longer knocking at Hollywood's gates, it's increasingly inside. That said, it's not the first time that performers have confronted the threat of digital simulation and technological displacement. So let me tell you a little bit of a history before I get to the implications for today. Long before what we now call AI, Hollywood experimented with ways to replicate performers and separate performances from performers themselves. Following the death of Brandon Lee during the filming of The Crow, studios used digital effects to recreate aspects of his face and basically complete the film. A major turning point came with motion capture. In Lord of the Rings, Twin Towers, Andy Serkis's performance as Gollum demonstrated that an actor's movements and expressions could be translated into a digital character, a simulation to be used and reused over and over again. Avatar expanded this, translating actors' performances into digital bodies, while still relying on star performers as the source of the data. At the same time, studios increasingly use CGI to reduce the reliance on background performers. Now, old epic blockbusters like Spartacus or Cleopatra, they'd hire hundreds, even thousands of background performers. But what started happening by the early 2000s was that large-scale CGI crowd and army simulation had become very common in Hollywood. Big spectacles, very few people. We saw that in Gladiator, we saw that in Alexander, we saw that in Troy. So the Lord of the Rings famously used crowd simulation software to create vast orc and human armies without hiring a corresponding number of performers and paying them. Generative AI extended that same logic, but really intensified it really fast, and now toward the feature cast, the feature performers. Following Paul Walker's death during the production of Furious 7, CGI was used to recreate aspects of his performance and basically complete the film. Now, a new labor-saving possibility had emerged in the mind of executives. If we can do it, we should do it, and if we don't do it first, someone else will, was the logic. So basically, the idea here is that humans' very screen presence could be extended beyond their actual life, beyond their actual performance that they were paid for. Other studios adapted similar techniques. Rogue One, Star Wars story, Peter Cushing, a younger version of Carrie Fisher, basically putting these digital simulations to work. And fast forward to today, and what do we have now? We have Tilly Norwood. Digital modeling and AI converge. Human performance treated as data that can be captured, stored, manipulated, redeployed by studios or producers whenever they want. Now, AI can clone voices, replicate faces, generate digital doubles, models, create entirely synthetic performers. The promise being sold is no longer simply better special effects to augment or enhance or support your amazing talents and skills and labor processes. But basically what AI is presenting to executives is this: the possibility of performances without performers, voices without voice artists, characters without craft that brings them to life. In short, AI is being hyped as a way to reduce the industry's dependence on humans themselves. Now, this isn't some sort of big conspiracy. The big executives of Hollywood say, no, we see a future. AI is not going to replace humans and human creativity. Netflix, Ted Sarandos says similarly, that AI is just a tool we can all use in whatever way we want. Don't worry. Now, I cannot judge the sincerity of these statements. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not an industry insider. But Disney and Netflix are using AI, and many production companies are using AI. They're embracing it. So the issue is not whether executives secretly want to replace every performer. It's that powerful competitive pressures outside and in the industry now are basically motivating or incentivizing these studios and these production companies to find ways to basically keep their budgets at a minimum. Studios operate in this very competitive market. If one studio discovers a way to reduce labor costs through AI, other studios, rival studios, face the same pressure to do the same from their boards, from their executives, from their shareholders. What begins as a choice by a few firms can quickly become industry norm and standard. And that's why your voice and your action is so important on this issue now. So the logic was captured by Bloom, who basically talks about we all need to embrace AI or risk being outcompeted by firms that do. And in practice, competition means finding ways to cut costs. AI firms promise precisely that. There's a new firm called TrueShort that claims it can produce basically AI-generated smartphone verticals at a fraction of the cost of traditional TV production with no actors, performers hired. In response, many performers are rightly anxious and contesting AI. They insist that this craft, it cannot and should not be reduced to data patterns, machine-generated output prompted by whomever. Even if aspects of performance can be technologically replicated, they should not be, because replacing performers with digital replicas threatens the livelihoods of everyone. Thousands upon thousands who've spent a lifetime honing a craft, and the hopes and dreams of newcomers to this industry as well. But it's not only actors that are confronting these conditions. I am very much in solidarity with you. Every professor in higher education is being faced now with the same argument you are. Across the creative industries, countless professionals are wondering what AI means for their livelihoods, their skills, their futures, including researchers like myself. Bill Gates basically says within the next 10 years, AI is going to transform higher education, and I'm going to be out of a job as a result. So like you, many profs, many people across the knowledge and creative industries are struggling with the same conditions, the same problems, the same questions. What happens when machines can perform tasks once thought to require uniquely human intellect and creativity? We're all anxious about the future, and understandably so. So let me just quickly demonstrate the conundrum, and I'm coming to the end. I will rise. There will be a climax. I'm identifying the conflict. We will then have a denouement and maybe a call to action, okay? For the past 20 years of my career, I'd usually spend a whole day in my labor process, researching, writing a lot, putting a 3-hour university lecture together with a PowerPoint presentation. Yet for the next 3 slides in this talk, I used ChatGPT to generate images based on the words in the next few paragraphs I'm about to read to you or perform. In less than a minute, Chat produced slide-ready images that were indeed more visually impactful than anything I could have created on my own. And no wonder why so many visual artists are on the front lines and have been on the front lines of the battle against AI and the type of appropriation of their talent and skill that's involved. So here are the slides, and this is basically just the script I'm reading it right now, inputted, and this is what we get. Silicon Valley's AI value proposition to those that run the screen industries is powerful, not just in theory, but in industrial practice. Like many labor-saving technologies before it, AI is sold with the promise of letting studios do more with less humans, less paid humans. AI promises to deliver performers who never get tired, never need breaks, never get paid, never ask for residuals, never join a union, never threaten to strike, never negotiate a contract. At its most ambitious, AI's Hollywood dream is simply to get the performance without the performer, to get the character without the craft, to get the labor without the laborer. That is the logic that must be resisted. The existential threat it poses to performers is very real. The problem is not simply that some jobs might be handed to synthetic performers, but that all job opportunities become more precarious. A future where performers compete not only against each other for roles, but also against digital replicas, clone voices, synthetic performers that can be reproduced and deployed at minimal cost. This is not a future that recognizes and dignifies your craft, nor your process, nor your need to make a living. It's not a future I want to see come to fruition. Now, of course, the total automation of performance is easier said than done, and this is unlikely to happen anytime in the very near future. Performance will still, by and large, depend upon you and your uniquely human capabilities that remain far more difficult to simulate than many AI boosters would have us believe. And we know right now that audiences mostly prefer human performance to the AI-generated alternative. But over time, will that be the case, right? As this technology gains momentum. Tom Hanks asks, what if audiences no longer care whether movies are made by humans at all? Thus, when we talk about AI in the screen industries, we're not talking about a value-neutral technology. It is not just a tool. Technologies are never simply value-neutral tools. They embody particular assumptions, priorities, interests, and they are developed and deployed basically within existing relations of power in the real-world political economy. In the case of AI, that involves big tech companies, studio executives, and you, performers. AI companies want to profit, make those trillions by selling their technologies to all of us, including studios. Studio executives and producers see opportunities to reduce labor costs and increase profitability. Performers, we want to protect our craft, livelihoods, and our rights. But AI doesn't create these conflicts. It simply exacerbates and intensifies them. These types of conflicts were very, very central to SAG-AFTRA strike in 2023. 160,000 performers walked off the job and won some important tentative protections governing AI-generated digital replicas. Yet the struggle did not end there. As AI technologies continue to evolve, performers and their unions have continued to push for stronger protections. AI governance is not a settled issue, but an ongoing site of contestation and collective bargaining, and that is why you and your voice is so important. Right now, AI governance is, if it's not just a governance washing activity by big companies, it's literally something being undertaken primarily by the companies that own AI and the governments that they're lobbying. You, indeed, are at the center of this story and this struggle. So we're living through a critical juncture, and I'm so inspired by everything going on here today. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but I know that the decisions made today and in the coming years will shape the screen industries of Canada and the world tomorrow. That is why the collective voice of ACTRA here in Toronto and across this country is so very, very important. Without collective organization, AI governance becomes something imposed upon us by executives of big companies, by the executives of big media companies, and of course, by the politicians and the policymakers that very much are supporting them right now. When you organize, AI becomes something that that all of us can govern to secure the future of this craft, this creativity, and your livelihood. Now, you are not alone in this struggle. There's creatives across Canada and the world that are asking these questions, that are engaging these debates, that are actually joining collective associations and movements to do so. And many of my great colleagues at the Creative Labor Critical Futures group are working on this issue. They've recently put together this great AI worker mobilizations tracker, which is basically identifying all the type of workers across the creative arts and cultural industries around the world that are taking on this issue. So that's really worth a look. You'll feel inspired. You'll feel there is solidarity emerging, and we're just at the early stages of composing some kind of collective force in this fight today. That's where your 3 C's are so important. In a world of digital doubles and synthetic performers, your position can be summed up in these principles: consent, compensation, and control. Consent means you have the right to know when your name, image, likeness, voice, and performance is being captured, reused, used to train AI systems, and to decide whether or not you agree to that. Compensation means that if your labor, likeness, or performance creates value through AI for those companies that own AI or that use sort of your likeness in some way, you should share in that value. You have a right to that. Control means that you should retain ongoing authority over your digital replica and your performance, how it is used. You should not cede your very identity and see your identity transformed into some corporate asset available for endless exploitation that profits a few trillionaires or billionaires. In that regard, the NCA Generative AI Digital Replica Rider is so important. At its core, it establishes a simple principle. Your voice, face, body, gestures, likeness, performance, and digital replica belong to you, not to AI companies, not to big studios. Ultimately, the future of the screen industries must be shaped not only by Silicon Valley and Hollywood, and hopefully less and less by those players, despite the power that they exercise, but by your consent, by your compensation, your control. In addition to those 3 C's, 3 more: your craft, your contestation, and your collective bargaining. That will be central to deciding the future of AI in the screen industries. After all, the future of the screen industries is still being scripted, performed, and produced by human beings, and by your collective struggles to shape the conditions of your life and of your labor. Technology must remain in service to society. Whether artists continue to play a leading role in writing that future for humanity or find themselves written out of the script altogether will depend on how effectively you and your allies mobilize your craft, creativity, and collective voice to speak loudly and be heard. The future of the AI and the screen industries is still being produced. The question is whether performers will remain authors of that future or eventually get written out of it by Silicon Valley tech bros and studio execs. My greatest hope is that you will continue to educate, to organize, and agitate so that you and creative workers everywhere will continue to be central, not only to telling the stories of our lives, but also to making history. Nothing about us without us. Power seeds nothing without demand, backed by collective organization. More than ever, we need you, and we need Canadians to massively invest to protect and promote the Canadian screen industries, especially in the age of American-centered AI imperialism. ACTRA, organize to win. And I'm very, very grateful for giving me the time to present on a stage I long dreamed of being on. Thank you.